I'm very aware that failure exists, and I'm very aware that I have to prove it every day. And what gives me the juice every day is knowing that I'm growing.
Hello, everybody. This is Jake Senziano, host of Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multi-family mentor, the coach, chef, father, six, and best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbo. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good. Back in Florida, long trip in New York with the 6 kids on the plane. Had to get a 7-passenger van. I couldn't get 8 passengers, so kids are sitting all over each other. Had a great time up there, but you know what? I realized that Florida's my home now, Jake.
Dude, I'm going to say one thing. You're glowing right now like a little schoolgirl. You got your pastels on, and I know you're back.
I like that, huh?
I like the G-Dad where it needs to be, so we're happy.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we got a very special guest today. Today's guest is Phillip Stutts. Phillip is a leading global authority on digital media and political marketing. He's using his experiences to make a positive impact fighting rare and incurable diseases worldwide. So without further ado, Phillip, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it is our pleasure. And, we've been doing our research on you, and we're seeing the marketing, the politics, the fighting the rare diseases. Just give us a little bit about your story and how this all came together, because it's really incredible.
Well, I've worked in political marketing since the 90s, over 20 years, run political campaigns, been a part of about 1,200 plus election victories, including 3 presidential wins. And, done Senate races, governor's races, U.S. House races. And about 2012, I was diagnosed with a rare disease. It's called Achalasia. I have my esophagus doesn't work. It'll never work the rest of my life. It's an incurable disease. And you probably understand this, or your audience listening right now probably does. For the first 5 years of a rare disease, there's no cure. I did nothing. I had put my head in the sand. I got paralyzed with fear. It's probably like a lot of people in the investment market right now too. And, I just didn't do anything. I was hoping it would go away. And I was being treated at the Mayo Clinic, right near you guys. And they came to me and they said, look, this is about 2.5 or almost 3 years ago. They said, look, you're going to have your esophagus. I'm 45 right now. They said, you're going to have your esophagus removed before you're 50. And you're going to be on a feeding tube the rest of your life. And so I remember driving back that day thinking, I have a choice. I can either be disrupted or be the disruptor of my own health. And then it kind of bled into everything in my life. Bled into being a better father, better husband. And it really bled into taking my marketing of politics and translating it into businesses, as we're in the most disruptive moment in human history in the economic model. We've seen this in politics with Donald Trump being elected president, which is the most disruptive moment in the history of American politics. And I utilize the principles behind politics to help businesses grow as a disruptive model. Now, in my health, long story short, I decided the disruption that I would take on was that I would find a cure to this disease in less than 5 years. That was about 2.5 years ago that I made this proclamation in Inc. magazine. And a crazy long story, but I'll make short. I have found doctors that read the article who contacted me. We put a team around me. We've gone through FDA approval. We've gone through a bunch of different processes, roadblocks, bureaucracy. But we, about a month ago, we started the first ever one-man clinical trial in the history of this disease. It's never been done on animals nor people, where they extracted stem cells out of my thigh muscle. They're growing them right now at a stem cell clinic. This is all happening at Johns Hopkins University. And this fall, I will go back to Johns Hopkins and they will insert those stem cells into my esophagus to try to regrow and restart the muscles and nerves that are dead. And it all started when I said, I have to be the disruptor in my life. And everything else sort of happened that way. My business happened that way and my personal life as well. And that's sort of that's it in a nutshell.
That is some ownership right there, Gino.
So, I mean, when you got diagnosed with it, what were your thoughts? Why me? I mean, what ran through your mind when that came about?
Oh, it was worse than that. Gino, it was worse than that. It was, Not even why me? I don't know. I'm not a why me person, but I was like, if I just ignore it, it'll go away. That was the paralysis.
Dude, I'd have been so pissed. I mean, like I would be so mad. And it's like, I would have said, why me? And I don't know if I'd have waited 5 years. I'd have been really annoyed. But so what did you do for those 5 years? Did you?
I didn't know where it came from. And here's how bad it is. This is how big of an idiot I was. I had never even, in 5 years of diagnosis of the disease, I never Googled Achalasia, the name of the disease. That's true. Mm-hmm. I never Googled it. So when I came home,
but you're better off not Googling, because you start reading stuff and you're like, holy crap, I got this. And 80% of what you read is not even true anyway. So
right.
I've learned
maybe that was a good thing. But what I found out was it was probably created from a diet that I was eating. You can see right now in the video, I'm pretty skinny. And I can eat whatever I want, which is good and really bad, because things attacked my gut and autoimmune disease took over. Then it attacked my esophagus and killed it. And I kept eating those foods for 5 more years that were really causing all the damage. And I was on so much medication 2.5 years ago, and the medication has long-term dementia effects. And the doctor said, well, in the short run, it'll give you relief. So you just keep taking your medications, mm-hmm. even though it'll probably give you dementia. And once I changed and completely overhauled my diet, which I had to hack and disrupt. I mean, it's crazy. Again, another total different podcast. I'm off all medications. I have a rare incurable disease, and I take no medications for it anymore because of my diet. And so that's just one of the hacks and disruptions that I incurred on it.
So what are the differences between political campaigns and business campaigns?
Well, I'll give you the biggest one because we could go for hours on this. We have election day, and most businesses don't. When you don't have the undeniable dates of you either win or you die, then you also see a lot of businesses that get in a lot of paralysis because they go, well, there's really no deadline. Things are going good. Economy's going well. Really, do we need to shake up things? Do we need to rock the boat? In politics, you have to disrupt every 2 years or you're dead. And it's just it's an innovation mentality because we cannot escape it. Let me give you an example. Every client I have ever had in politics is on a publicly available database called the Federal Election Commission, or in each state, they have their own databases. So if a candidate hires me, all of my competitors that I beat out to get that candidate, they now know that who I'm working for. So if I lose, what do you think they do to me the next time I pitch a new client?
Mm-hmm. They rip you apart. This guy's a loser. He just blew it for so-and-so. Man, what do you want to work with him for? Look at his track record. He sucks. Come on, man.
This is why I like Italians, because every time I'm on a podcast and I say that, they go, I don't know. Yeah, you guys get it, right? So, that's what would happen. My legs would get cut out for me. It's the most cutthroat business in the world. I either win or I'm out of business. And so that's the mentality I take. In 2004, I ran the National Get Out the Vote program for George W. Bush's reelection. And in that, it was the most disruptive moment in political campaign history because we took, for the first time ever, we took consumer data, married it with voter data, and created voter profiles that we could go out and target each voter on what they cared about. No one had ever done it. It was the most disruptive moment in history. And then we got fat and happy. And 4 years later, Obama came in and completely changed the rules. And he married data with social media. Yep. And that was the most disruptive moment in campaign history until 8 years later, when Trump married data, social media, and branding and created the most disruptive moment in political history. And I say that because in the investment world or the business world, we've far outpaced on the political side how we have to innovate so much, because if we don't innovate the next 2 years, somebody's going to outdo us, out-innovate us, outthink us, and win. And so I can't think of anything else. So when I apply those principles to businesses, we've just had unbelievable explosive results, including in the financial sector, which I'm happy to kind of jump in and kind of walk through.
Hold on. I got to pump the brakes. Yeah. You're telling me that it's not just the best ideas win in politics? You're telling me it's not about the guy's soul and who it is? You're telling me it's like we're getting manipulated by marketing here? Whoa. And then everyone hates each other because they're on this side of the aisle or that side of the aisle and people are being divided? What are you saying, man? Come on. I'm sorry. We're backing up here.
Shocking, right? Shocking.
Whoa.
So I think one of the things, Jake, that the problem with the political spectrum is there's so much money and it's not their money and they don't have to turn a profit. Whereas businesses, when they have money, they've got to turn a profit and they've got to be innovative. So I think Trump spent half as much money as Hillary did in his campaign. And that's so telling. And he's running it from a business perspective. He's not running it from and I wish we would tackle every problem that we had in the government in that perspective, but they don't want to do that because it's not their money. So how did you hang on for so long? That's what I want to know. I mean, like, I know it must have been soul sucking at times to be working with people like that. Did you like what you did? Or, I mean, like, what's the transition? How did you go from politics to business? Because it's two different complete mediums. I mean, one is for profit. The other one is really not for profit.
No, you're gone. Let me give you an example. There was a special election in Pennsylvania last year as a congressional race. There were like 458,000 votes cast. It came down to like 341 votes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? $10 million got spent on it in marketing. It lasted 4 months. What if I were to take the two candidates out and replace them with your business and your number one competitor? And I told you had 4 months, and I told you had a budget, and I told you the most customer transactions you generated between the two, the one that had the most would be number one in the market, and the one that finished second was out of business forever. How fast would you move? How fast would you innovate? Would you sit there and have meetings and memos? And would you just sit there and hem and haw, this is what we need to do? Well, let's do this little thing over here. I'm scared to do this. We don't have time for that. So, and when we have budgets, they don't always start out very big. The candidate has to raise money. They're all not self-funders. 99% of candidates do not self-fund. So we start with a low amount of money. We test a lot of concepts. When he or she raises money, then we put everything into what we've tested and know works. And, we've just realized we target voters and here's the thing. I would say this more than anything, Gino. The consistency is the principles. The principles are so similar in business and politics, it's scary. The execution is different, but the principles are exactly the same. You have to have brand awareness. You have to understand what the client feels or what the voter feels. You have to think about what they care about, not what you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things, and I'll tell you a great way. Here's a great, where it's similar. When a candidate hires me in politics, the first thing I ever do is I say, before we run out and hold press conferences and do all these things, what I want you to do is we're going to take a poll in your district or your state, and we're going to find out what the voters care about. Enough voters to get you to 51% on election day. And then I'm going to find out what the candidate thinks. And then I'm going to find the 2 or 3 things where they are in alignment from the voters and the candidate. And that's all we're talking about. We're not talking about what the candidate, let's say it's 8 things. Let's say the candidate wants to talk about environmental issues or social issues or guns or something like that. And the voters don't care about. Why would we talk about that? So we find 2 or 3 of the highest valued topics that both the voters and the candidate care about. And we marry them and build the whole marketing campaign around that. It's the same thing I tell you with business and customers or clients. Before an investor or a business or a financial services or anything, before they go, find out what your target market thinks, what they feel, what's going on in their life. Why do they want to invest money? Instead of just saying all the things that everybody always says all the time. You know what you need to do in your business. If you can marry that with what the investor or what the prospect or the client feels, then it's hard to be stopped.
So, Philip, what you're telling me is basically the Democrats right now are running in the primary where they're just talking about the stupidest things on the planet to appease their base. But when they go to a national election, they've got to pull it back and rein it back and say, well, I didn't really mean the Green New Deal. I meant this and this. So it sort of makes a little bit more sense to me now. So that sheds a lot of light on why how you actually go to them. Over here, you have the one thing consumers truly care about. What's that one thing that they truly care about?
So we are in I'm going to pull out my phone. We're in a moment in history where everybody has their phone in front of their face. And every marketer that is talking to any investment services or it could be B2B, B2C, they're all saying you've got to have a digital media strategy, right? And I tell you that's the complete opposite. Gino, Jake, let me ask you a question. How many times have you been on your phone, seen a pop-up ad, and clicked on it in the last month?
I never have.
Very rarely.
Right. So the one thing is to build a true, authentic connection with your client. And that is done by personal means. And then, I call it the 3 R's. First is you have a reputation, right? So anybody that has a business, you guys have a reputation, you have a brand, right? That's your reputation. The next is you have to build the relationship. In politics, the candidate goes out, knocks on doors, walks in parades, does town hall meetings, does press conferences. He's building connections with the voters. And then the third R, more than anything else, is the referral system. And you can do that in a million different ways. But the way I would say is that in politics, we get the candidate to go out and builds a relationship. And then those people tell their friends, their family, and it spreads. Now, that can be done a couple of ways. It can be done one-on-one, and it can be done with your marketing. If you give me a product or a service that you love, you feel like you have a relationship with. Jake, give me one. I'll play it.
So I'm not a big tech guy, but I've always gravitated towards Apple products because I found them to be easy to use and literally very contained. And I like that. Didn't have to do the software updates. It spoke to me on a lot of levels because I like the simplicity of it. And the functionality of it was easy for me to use.
Well, first of all, Apple now knows how to build a relationship with you, because they know you like convenience and you don't want to think about it. And that's what they've created in their product. So one, it's not about what they want to talk about. It's the way they've served you. Second, if you now see an ad about how do we make things easier in your life from Apple on your phone, you're more likely to click on it. My point is that the digital marketing arena should be based on a reinforcement of the relationship you've already built. And that's what people get so wrong in this day and age. If you're leading with digital media, 99% of people aren't clicking on anything and doing anything. But if you've built a relationship, you've built a reputation, then people are like, oh, I want to watch that ad. I want to watch that video. I want to learn more about what they've got. That's when you market. That's the whole point.
Let's talk about the Chick-fil-A relationship for a second, because one thing that we're trying to model is the Chick-fil-A experience for our residents. So we own and manage apartment complexes, and they're C and B apartments. So they're not your A-type high rises in the cities, right? These are working class folks in safe, clean, and affordable communities. And what we've seen is you can go and get a chicken sandwich and fries and a sweet tea for $7, and you can pull in. And they'll say, thank you. It's been a pleasure serving you today. And you have a great experience. You have a great relationship. That's what we're trying to create in the apartment space. So how do you see that blending in that relationship taking hold from a marketing perspective?
Well, think about it. They built a model not on what everybody else is doing. They built, Chick-fil-A's entire model is making you feel special. Again, let's go back to what the whole premise. It's not about, hey, we've got great chicken sandwiches. No, you determine they have great chicken sandwiches. And you know why?
And people say that. But everyone says that. That's the crazy thing, Phillip. You're right.
But they reinforce it with the way they treat you.
Yep.
Every one of those restaurants you walk in, they're nice. They're kind. They try to get you in fast. They have a great quality product. Like everything is to build loyalty. Isn't that the same thing we should be doing in the financial services industry?
There you go.
Like, it's the same thing.
That's it.
But the problem with Phillip is that's work. I mean, it's taken me over 3 years to build the Jake and Gino brand. We've got 3 podcasts now. We're going to start a 4th one. But it takes a lot of time, work, clarity, dedication to do that. It's a lot easier to throw up a few ads and go, hey, I'm doing some marketing. And so how do you convey that? How do you tell people that? Yeah. And it's a long game. I mean, it's basically you're an entrepreneur. You're a farmer planting a seed today, hopefully 6 months from now with water and with no hail, no damage. You get some crops from that. So that's the difficult job that you have to convey to people. How do you do that? How do you show them?
So I'll use a Chick-fil-A example, and I'll tell you how. One is how many marketing campaigns, if you're listening to this podcast right now, how many marketing campaigns do you plan to run for your business? And I know there are restrictions and everything, but you've got to market. Like if you're not marketing, you're dead. So how many do you want to run in the next 5 years? Because Chick-fil-A has run an ad called Eat More Chicken, where they basically
With
go,
the cows.
go negative on themselves to try to save a cow's life, right? And they've run that for 20 years. And
Talk about beating the drum.
Right, 20 years, one marketing campaign. Every client we have has gone through 6 or 7 marketing kind of campaigns, completely different ones in the last 10 years. It is a complete waste of money. So my first step is stop wasting money. And the way you stop wasting money is the first step you do is invest in the data to understand what your customer base thinks, what your client base thinks, what the investor base thinks. It is so easy. It is so easy. So we've done this for a billion-dollar financial services company. But what we didn't, I know there are not a lot of billion-dollar companies probably in your ecosystem, but what they did was they provided it for their stockbrokers, for their investors. They did it as a service to the people that serve their, it was the B2B play, right? But they did it, and they said, how can our partners serve their clients better? So we want to provide this. So we went in, and I'll give you an example. We did this in Alabama. We targeted, my company, we have a partnership with the largest data collection company in America. So we know if you give us a target client base, we can find out what they think, what they feel, what motivates them, the platforms they're on. We can eliminate as much risk as humanly possible. And so for this one, we did it 50 and over, women that didn't have life insurance. That was literally the demographic they wanted to know. They wanted to sell an insurance product. And so we went in, and what we found was, you would think 50 women, and they had to have be over 250,000 in net worth. And you'd be surprised by how many of them didn't have life insurance. But you would think the number one quality is they wanted to be safe, right? And that's what I would tell you your stereotype would be. But what we found was that they wanted to have more choices, and the number one issue was actually religion and traditions. So if the insurance sales rep can go and talk to prospects and know that they can talk to them about their faith, about their community, because that's part of traditions first, talk about the product and the safety aspect of the product next, and then tie that in. The third aspect was they wanted to go have fun. Now that they've cornered safety and tradition and religion, they wanted to now have fun. So then if you marry those 3 things in their talking points, they had explosive results. We also found out
you're building trust and loyalty at that point too, because you're hitting on those
because it's what they care about.
Yeah.
Now the investor can go in there and go, we've got this great product and we want to sell you. That's not what the client, a woman over 50 that was making decisions. So you could think divorcee or a widow, right? That was the market they wanted to understand. And so we also went in and found out what platforms they were on. Well, they over-indexed on traditional platforms, mail and TV and radio, which is great. Most financial services, that's where they're still marketing. But what they didn't know was that those people were marrying the digital component with tradition. So if you were just in the traditional marketing space, you were screwing it all up. They were on Facebook, and the number 2 platform was YouTube for 50 women over 50 that were not married or that were widows or divorcees.
Wow. They're watching videos of the G-Dad.
They're watching videos. Thank you. They're watching videos. No, that's what they were.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
And so many financial services people are not leading with videos to tell a story that resonates with the client. As soon as that meeting happens with that woman that's over 50 with the insurance product he's trying to sell, that woman is going to go to their website to see what their company is all about, what their investment firm is all about. If you don't have a video telling your family story, telling why you started your business, or marrying those ideas that the customer cares about, you're screwing it all up and you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And so what we do on our side, on the marketing side, is everybody has to invest in the data before we run a marketing campaign. Because 2 things happen. Either they're going to do it the right way, or I don't care. I don't have to work with them. Because if they are not willing to do this the right way and run one marketing campaign over the next 5 to 10 years, it's not worth my time. I'm here to win it for them. And I'm here to win it over the long haul. And part of the reason I wrote the book, Fire Them Now, was to expose the lies that all these marketers are selling right now, but also is how does the business win the game of marketing before the marketing agency does? And that's really the first step.
So would you recommend the book, I'm looking at my bookshelf, from Robert Cialdini, Persuasion? Because you're basically talking about persuasion. You're actually posturing yourself up and you're persuading the client before you actually have an interaction with them. Would you recommend that to people to read?
Yeah, it's actually on my bookshelf as well. So I appreciate you there. Yes, and I would tell you this, but it's like this. What holds businesses back in marketing is that they feel they have to put a lot of risk into a marketplace that has a lot of shadiness in there, that they don't like. They're going to spend all this money on marketing. They don't know what they're going to get. There's a lot of uncertainty. So my job as a marketer is to eliminate as much uncertainty as possible and be completely transparent. Data eliminates 90% of the uncertainty and the risk, and it puts it on me to now deliver.
Mr. Stenziano.
I think it's great because, for us, Gino and I, a lot of sweat equity, a lot of hard work over the years, putting things together. And it's a lot, for us, has been that marketing piece where it's like, you don't really fully grasp it. But I think if you allow yourself to utilize the data to your point, to lead you, down the path and to stick to it and not, veer off like the Chick-fil-A thing you mentioned for 20 years.
Right.
Use the data, stick to it, and take a long view. It sounds like there could be a lot of good coming from all that. So. Well,
look, you've asked this at the beginning. The first question was, and it's connection. Now, let me tell you, can I tell you one concept that will crush everything?
We want to hear all the concepts because we are like, we are not marketers, right? That's not our strong suit.
So the one concept, and it's the favorite chapter I have in the book, and it's something that we get in politics better than anything in the world. It's called going negative, right? In politics, every campaign I've ever been on, we pretty much run some kind of negative ad against our opponent, where we take a sledgehammer, bash him over the head, and win the race, right? I'm not talking about that, although the principle is the same. In business, any business that finds a foe that doesn't offend the marketplace, doesn't offend your customer base or your client base, and runs ads or runs a marketing campaign against that foe, has an extraordinary ability to grow very, very, very quickly. So you're seeing this right now in the financial services industry. I think Creative Planning is running a bunch of ads about non-fiduciaries. And what client base is offended that they should be following the fiduciary standard that all investment firms, right? And so you're seeing this like Burger King is going after McDonald's. You're seeing a lot of these things, right? We just did a case study that we're going to put out in the next few weeks, but it's basically we worked for a supplement company. And when they undertook this data report that we talked about. And what we found in the data was their client base was 50% vegan or vegetarian, and that they hated soda. Now, that sounds obvious, but unless we literally took their entire customer base and overlaid it, followed it, tracked it for a month, and found these things, So now we ran negative or comparison ads. And we did it to do this. We ran against soda. Now, their client base hates soda. So who in their client base is offended? Nobody. But we ran sodas. We also ran positive. We did a test run, right? We did 2 months of testing a bunch of the messages that we found in the data because, again, that eliminates the risk. So we find out what works, and then we invest in a higher level once we know it works. We ran positive ads. The positive ads were this was a vegan, vegetarian product. And so we ran like 10 test ads. We ran one negative. One of the other 8 of the positives was vegan, vegetarian. The vegan, vegetarian finished number 2. Of
the
all
hatred for soda, though, really connected and hit
number 1, and it wasn't even close. It was a 20% higher conversion rate. It was a 50% more click-through rate than the number 2 ad we ran. Not all of them. The number 2 ad, this was an above, because everybody is trying to find connection right now. And as a business owner, you've got to figure out how to connect with your clients. It's the most important thing. And I'll go back to what you said, like it all comes down to, it takes time to build connection. This is not, any marketer that says they have a
This is so disappointing, though.
Yeah, I don't have a get rich quick pill.
What's disappointing? What's disappointing about it, Jake? Huh?
No, it's disappointing because what we're seeing and what I'm hearing from him is Americans, whether it's political, whether it's food, the thing that's striking a nerve and motivating us to take action is hate. And it's like, if we hate something or it's driving us nuts, like the soda, fucking soda is this, that, and the other thing, that's spurring us to take action. And it's just, it is what it is. I'm not like sitting here.
That's human psychology, man.
Yeah, but Jake, the other thing.
I know, and it's just disappointing. Like, we're going to be more motivated by the way we hate this guy or the freaking soda than something positive to uplift one another. And hey, the data is the data, and you just got to roll with it if you're going to compete. But man, that's disappointing.
But Jake,
but who cares on soda? Like, I feel in politics, I get how people
I would just love squishy. Yeah.
But in business, I don't. Because as a business owner, you've got to serve your clients. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm not saying I'm bowing out. I'm just saying, like, the fact that we're getting more motivated by our hatred for soda than the quality that something can bring to our lives is like.
So that's human psychology also. People are more willing not to lose money than to make money, right? So they're more willing to say, yeah, so you have to play on that. And the other thing that really upsets me also is it's not linear. So anything in life, like business, you might grind it out, what Jake says, to grind it out for 3 years. Then all of a sudden you plateau and you're get rich quick overnight. But what about the 3 years that you put into it? People don't see that. That's the other issue that we're going to have problems with, because to create the brand and to put all that work in, there's a lot that has to go into it. And sometimes people quit before they get to that point. So that's the other thing that's a little bit upsetting to me, because, there's a lot of work that goes into whatever you want to do, whether you want to become, incredibly successful in multifamily, whether you want to become a political candidate.
At the end of the day, it's results oriented, right?
Mm-hmm. So, yes, yeah. I agree. So,
all right, let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsor. We're getting off track here. Gino, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. I know that you've been hard at work helping Jake and Gino students do just that using our framework. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
Guys, we've been hard at work growing our community of like-minded investors, and the results of our members has been nothing short of incredible. We're looking to grow this amazing group. What we're looking for is those who want to follow our proprietary framework that we've created. Buy right, manage right, and finance right. Leverage our connections, education, and mentorship as ways to take your business to the next level.
So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of our amazing community, apply to work with us at jakeandgino.com/apply. All right. And we are back. So I always, my number one question for everybody is, what is your best habit for success? Because we have amazing guests on the show, and I always want to take a deep dive into this, because there's got to be something that you do on a daily or weekly basis that's led to your success. So can you share that with us?
Yeah. When I started, so we created this marketing agency 4 years ago. We've grown it 22,000% in 4 years with no outside investment and no debt. And the reason we have is that we've based it on two things that at the time when I created the company, I was just striving to be. In a way, I'm still just striving to be this. It's called Give and Grow. That is the values of our company. And it's not hokey pokey stuff. It's give more than you take, and it's always be growing. So the way I'm wired is I have to be growing or I am literally depressed. I just cannot sit still. And, I can sit still for about a week on vacation and that's about it, but I have to be making progress. If I'm the same person running my business right now that I was a year ago, I probably wouldn't be in business, because either you're changing and growing or you're going to be dead. And this is the same thing if you talk about your industry, if you're talking about financial services, if you're talking about the way, like, you have to be growing. So for me, the only way I could do that was that I had to start working on my business, not in my business. Now, I still work on some clients here and there, but every day I come into the office and I study for 2 hours. And that studying explodes my day, because I read books or I think about some problem we're having in the business that I need to make better. I feel like how are we improving our connection with our own clients? Like, I work, my whole mission is this. I want to make 2 or 3 improvements in my business every single week. If I do that, I'm going to have between 100 and 200 improvements per year. I've been in business with my marketing agency for 4 years. We're talking about, basically 500 around that. Small tweaks to my business for improvements. If 500, if I do it 10 years, right, we're talking about over 1,000 improvements. You cannot be stopped as a business if that's the case, because I'm very aware that failure exists, and I'm very aware that I have to prove it every day. And what gives me the juice every day is knowing that I'm growing and that I'm giving more to my clients than I'm taking from them. Honestly, that is it. That I'm giving more to my employees than I'm taking. I've never taken $1 out of my business. That's the reason we've grown 22,000%. My wife is literally wants to kill me, right? Because I take every profit and I reinvest it into serving the people that worked with us, or hiring new people, or improving the culture, or improving client outcomes, or buying into partnerships with the data company that I told you about earlier. That was an expensive investment without any return at the beginning. But I did it because I knew no other marketing firm was other than Fortune 100 companies that are working with those kind of marketing firms, were utilizing data to make decisions to improve their businesses. And I knew that if I had that, I could be unstoppable.
There is so much value to unpack there, because the one thing that really, set with me on what you just said was the core values and culture. And you used the word hokey, I think, because, if you can go back, I worked in corporate America, and the company would talk about culture and core values. I was like, get out of here with this crap. And then now as an entrepreneur, you realize it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything at the end of the day, because and then you talked about Give and Grow, and we can talk about Grow or Die with Steve Jobs, whatever that may be. If you're stagnant, you are dead.
Yeah,
and that goes right into your culture and your core values. So, man, that was
and I'll tell you this: 5 to 10 years ago, I was not growing and I was not giving. So I created the values because it's what I'm striving to be.
Yeah.
And I know it's the right thing, and I'm trying that every day. I did not always live up to that. I'm striving to be that. And that is what the core. And so here's a crazy stat. We have about 27 employees in my company. 95% of them are millennials or Gen Z. No one has left the company in 15 months.
It's pretty good. Because the data that we know about these folks is they like to move around. So that's impressive.
We got to serve them. And I'm not perfect. Trust me, I'm not. We make up mistakes.
Yeah, but you obviously have culture. They're not sticking.
We have a culture director. We don't have an HR director. I think HR is the opposite of culture. So we have a culture director, and that's how we look at it.
It's the stick versus the carrot.
I like that, Jake.
The other thing, just because I really enjoyed this, you're talking about 2 to 3, good decisions per day, or I think you said that may be like Bezos' thing, but literally that's what you get paid the big bucks for, is to make sound decisions, and maybe just a few of them every day, or the tweaks, working on the machine. So it's that is some quality stuff. What about just you got a company, maybe they got 10, 15 employees, they're starting out. Yeah. What is a really sound marketing tip or strategy for the folks getting started?
Yeah, I think I'll give you a couple tactics I think are great. And we've done this for stockbrokers that have small shops, and they have restrictions in the way they can market, right? So one is, I'm going to tell you something that's just so basic. You're going to be like, really? First of all, have in-person meetings. A lot of people do that. I get that. Thank you notes, handwritten thank you notes. I cannot tell you, and I don't do it because I've made money. I do it when I'm done with this podcast. Both of you will get a handwritten note, and you will get a signed book from me of my book. And it's not because it's like, oh, I'm checking a box. It is, I'm grateful that you had me on your show. I am. I'm beyond grateful. I'm going to promote the heck out of this in my platform. I'm going to try to give more than you guys. That's just the way I want to do it. So writing a thank you note in this day and age is a lost art. And I believe it is a powerful form of connection. And I'm obsessed with connecting more and more. I did this recently. So we had a lender, a home lender. And he wanted to build more partnerships with real estate brokers. And so he had a call center. He was cold calling, and he's like, man, it didn't work. And I go, that is like the dumbest thing ever. Like, I'm sorry. Cold calling in this day and age there may be some value, but it's like maybe a 3% value. What I told him was, you should go to every brokerage firm and say, instead of spending all this marketing dollars on cold calling to try to get partnerships, go to the marketing or go to the real estate agencies and say, I'm going to pay for your marketing. I'm going to produce a series of videos, not about me, but about how great your agency or brokerage is. And I'm going to give it to you. And if you feel that we gave you an incredible video about how you serve home buyers and you're the best in the business, and we're going to make it all about you, not about me. And after that's over, if you think that's valuable, cool, refer business back to us to do the loans. But we're going to do that first without any expectation. And that loan officer has doubled his business in the last 24 months by that strategy alone. So trying to give your partners their marketing is another way of doing it, because they don't want to deal with it, and it's risk-free for them, and it's video content, which is the most important thing you can put out right now.
And it's always better to hear somebody say you're great from somebody else than you saying it yourself. So it's all testimonials too. That's awesome. I love that.
Yep,
Jake,
third-party validation.
Gino, you're the man, buddy.
Jake, I love you, bro.
Phillip, you're crushing it, my man. What about a book recommendation?
So right now I am reading $1 Trillion Coach by Eric Schmidt, who ran Google. And he has just written a book about his coach, who passed away a couple years ago. And he was also the coach to Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg and pretty much everybody in Silicon Valley. And he was actually a football coach. And he moved to Silicon Valley and realized that coaching others was his talent. And it is extraordinary in the way that I need to manage my own teams right now. And so it's been a high value book for me.
It just sounds like something out of the Karate Kid. I gotta check that out, man.
Yeah, it just came out. I
didn't even know about this guy.
I'm friends with a guy named James Altucher. I don't know if you know who that is. He's got a fun podcast, but he had Schmidt on a couple of weeks ago, and I listened to the pod and was like, oh, this is my book. This is my next book. So it's great.
So what project are you excited about right now? Because you got a ton of stuff going on. What's really getting your juices going right now?
So really, I wrote the book, came out last year, spent a year promoting the book, and now, our corporate marketing agency is moving very, very fast. We'll 10x it this year from what we did last year. And really, I know this sounds crazy, it's optimization. We are doing 98% of our work right now is not on business development. It is to ensure that our clients are successful, and we build all the systems so that when we 10x a year from now, that we have the infrastructure in there to serve them and nothing falls off. So right now, what I'm juicing on is being a CEO again, not being the promoter boy. I get that when I can do my 1 or 2 or 3 tweaks a week, like that is where I find I'm the most excited about my business. So we are seeing unbelievable results. We're putting out like the optimizations. We're now putting out case studies on all the success we've had with our clients. And that is really a lot of fun to put together.
So obviously we're in different, business spaces, but the similarities and probably the stage that you're at in your business and the paths that we're going down are so similar, because it's exactly the mind space and what we're working on, especially on the property management side, just fine tuning the customer experience and making sure that we're delivering. So I can really appreciate that.
And I would say like one of those, I just signed with the largest speakers bureau in the country, and I'm now giving speeches to, huge audiences. And I've done, I think, over 250 TV appearances in the last 5 years with CNN, MSNBC, Fox Business, Fox News. And I know how to perform on camera, but to translate that now into on stage speaking has been a real challenge and a ton of fun.
Yeah, excellent. So what's the best way for listeners to get a hold of you? And if they want to work with your business, what does that look like?
Yeah. So I will say this is part of the give and grow thing, right? We talked about earlier. What we did was we created an opportunity for businesses to learn a little bit more about how they should be doing marketing at no cost. And so we created a free 5-minute marketing audit, where if you fill out a 5-minute form on phillipstutts.com/audit, and you can put the spelling of my name in your show notes, I'm sure. But they fill out this, it's all your publicly available digital footprint. My team will spend 2 or 3 business days poring over it. We'll produce a 7 to 9 page report on what you're doing right and what you can improve. And we'll also do a 30-minute consultation call to walk through the report and answer any questions you have. And so that's one way. If people are like, I want to figure out what I'm doing right and what I can improve. And then the other is, go to phillipstutts.com. My email's on there. My socials are on there. It's just the easiest way to go.
Gino, I'd almost be afraid to have them look at ours because I think we get an F.
You need video. You need to lead that front page. It's got to have a really good video.
We would be on Philip's naughty list.
No, you're not. You have a really, you have a really good, you have a good platform. I would tell you put a little bit more video leading, like, where it runs video, not I need to click on YouTube and watch the video. But other than that, you have a very great platform.
G-Dad, what else?
The wrap up could be like another hour, so I'll just keep it.
There's a lot to unpack here, man. He's a wealth of knowledge, and you can tell when someone's really in the mix because they have the content. So it's really great.
For me, what I took away more than anything is I think you have to work on building a brand and not be these people who come out there and just want clickbait, right? Create the brand. I think our brand is family. Lead with that. I'm going to be doing a video with my kids in front of the complexes and just talk about what multifamily does for you. That's what I want to do. And I'll say to them, these are my Lamborghinis. These are my Ferraris, the 6 kids around me. They would cost more than that, but this is what multifamily can do for you, and be genuine about it and talk about your why. I think that's one thing that we're going to do in the next couple of weeks. We need to continue to build a brand. I think everyone out there is a brand, and it's not hard. It doesn't have to cost money, but it's going to take time and it's going to take a lot of effort. And it's also, I think when they shut this podcast off, think about clarity. I mean, what is really clear in your life? What are you trying to achieve in your life? And start every day with that. I think people don't have enough clarity. They just continue to do what they did yesterday, and be clear on what your message is, be clear on what you want your brand to become. And that's why as I got older, I felt like Jake said, culture in the beginning was stupid. I always say this, a man attracts not what he wants, but what he is. So I guess Phil, 5 or 6 years ago, like myself, we were just dangling around and we were just probably chasing the shiny dollar. But that as you grow, that's why he's been able to hire and attract so many great millennials, because he knows what they look for and he knows he's a better person than he was years ago. So he's able to attract that talent and keep that talent. And I'm sure that they know what the mission is on the company. That's what we're trying to do with Jake and Gino. So
can I give you guys a compliment?
We'll take it all day, man. Yeah.
What you guys really get right, and what I beg most businesses to do, is stop trying to be everything to everybody. You guys, your niche is so powerful, and that's why you're successful, because you have an extraordinary niche that a lot of people aren't competing. Go where people aren't. That's why I tell people to use data, because 99% of anybody in the financial services industry is not investing in data first to understand their client base, to communicate and connect with them better. You guys have an incredible niche. And that is why you're not competing with a ton of other people. And that's why you're successful, because everybody comes, they see your authenticity, but there's really nobody else out there that is doing all the things that you guys are doing. I know there are a lot of people in the marketplace. I'm saying there's not a lot of people doing what you do. And that is very impressive.
Well, thank you. Gino, anything else?
Well, I was for you, Jake, not Gino.
I think everybody just go. We're going to have it on the show notes, but I mean, give Philip's company a try, because I think if you can nail marketing is 80 to 90% of the business. Really, that's all it is. And everyone's afraid of it because, the sales and this and that. If you have something that you're willing to sell, you shouldn't be afraid to sell your product because you stand behind your product. So marketing is the most important thing, as Steve Harvey Eker says. There's marketing, operations, and product, basically. Focus on the marketing. Jake, we get off the call. We're going to start focusing on marketing this week. Okay, my friend? That's all I got to say.
And I like it. Philip, anything else today?
No, I'm honored to be on, and good luck to everything. Keep doing great work.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.